Hey everybody, welcome back to another fun and exciting Algebra 1 class. Today we are going to be talking about compound inequalities. Well, the last few lessons we've been talking about inequalities. The only difference today is we're going to now what's called compound them. What does it mean to compound something? Well, compound means to add to that. So we're taking the initial concepts that we've been dealing with here in inequalities and we're adding something to them. Okay? What are we adding to them? Well, what we're going to add to them instead of doing one expression, inequality, and another expression, we're going to do expression, inequality, expression, inequality, expression. Okay? And you'll see what I mean in just a minute. Or in other words, we're going to have two different inequalities working together at the same time, and we're going to graph them together, and you'll see how all this works in just a second. So I'll stop talking and about that, and I will start showing you stuff so that you can see what's going on. Look down here. There's really three different ways that we can classify these. The first one is called open, and we are on, if you're following along in your book, we are on page 143. Actually 142. I'm going to start off on 142. Solving compound inequalities. So the first thing that we need to talk about is what's called the interval. The interval, if you look down here, it says open. There's one type of interval that is what's called an open interval. And if you have a problem and it gives you the one critical number of -2 and one critical number of -1, for example, or +1. Open means that I do not color these in. Okay, so that means that it's going to have this type of a sign, one of those two, either greater than or less than. And open means that the interval is a word for like the space in between. Okay, the distance right here, this distance in between these, the interval we would color in. Okay, and this one's called open. The reason it's called open is because these two are open. Okay, or they're not colored in, they're not closed. They're open. Okay, the next one, and again, just kind of listen to what I'm saying right now, and then once we start doing these, you'll go, oh, okay, I get it. The next one is actually called open, or closed. Sorry. That other one was called open, this one is called closed. Sorry about that. This one is called closed. What does that mean? Well, let's say one of our critical numbers is at -2, the other critical number is at 1. Well, when we color these in, okay, so what does that mean? Okay, it means that we have one of these signs, that it is also equal to. Okay, so we color it in, and we color in both of them. When we do that, and now our interval is in between, okay, for example, this one is called closed. Why is it closed? Because these are closed off. Those are colored in, okay? All right, the next one is called mixed. And when we have one open, for example, -2, and one closed, for example, the 1 is closed this time. So what is this going to be? This is going to be, for example, we have one open and one closed. Because remember, we're having three parts now. So we have a part, and a part. So we have three pieces to this, three expressions combined by two signs. Okay? And so when we have one sign that's not equal to and one sign that is equal to, then this one is called mixed, and we would draw our interval here in the middle. You could also have mixed going the other way, and that would be if the 1 is open and the 2 is closed, then the mixed can go either way. Okay, so that's just the mixed is going, in other words, the -2 is open, and in this one, the -2 is closed. And in this one, the 1 is closed, and in this one, the 1 is open. So whenever you have one open and one closed, it's called mixed. Okay? Now, I say that to just kind of introduce the lesson to you. This isn't the lesson. This is kind of, you need this in order to do the lesson. What you need to know for your quizzes and tests are really these three words right here: open, closed, and mixed. So make sure you know what an open one looks like. They're both open. Closed, they're both closed. and then in a mixed, one is open and one is closed. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and turn the page in your book, and we're on page 143 now. How do we solve a compound inequality? Well, there's some steps. I have changed the steps. The steps you see in the book are not the steps I'm giving you. I like my steps better. Maybe you like the steps in the book better. That's fine. You can read them, you can look over them. They're both going to solve the inequality. Okay. My way is going to solve it, I think, for you a little simpler. The way in the book might be a little bit more complicated for you. So if you want to use that, that's fine. If you want to use my way, it's fine as well. All right. So first of all, number one, we need to simplify all three parts. Okay. Simplify all three parts. Now, right now you're thinking, what does that even mean? Simplify all three parts. Well, let's look at one. We're going to do one while we're talking about these steps. Okay, so let's go down here. And what we want to do is, first of all, let's identify what we're looking at. Look, I have a piece right here. We're going to call this is the first part. That's number one. Now look what we have here. We have a sign, okay, our greater than, less than in this case. It's a less than sign, okay? And then look what we have. Okay, we have part number two. Okay? And then we have another greater than or less than sign. In this case, it's another less than. And then we're going to have another piece here. This 12 minus 5 is going to be piece number 3. So there are three parts to this. Part 1, part 2, and part 3. So what does it say? Let's go back to the step and let's talk about what it says to do with this thing. Step number 1 says simplify all three parts. So we're going to come back here and we're not going to be moving x's and we're not going to be moving things around onto the other side. We're just going to leave that alone for right now. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to simplify these three things. And I'm going to put them in different colors and I'll solve them in different colors so that you can see the difference between the three. So we're just going to solve. In other words, just do what you can do. Now on this one, you can either distribute first or you can follow the old school order of operation and solve in the parentheses first. It doesn't matter which one you do. I think it's easier in this case to solve inside the parentheses. 4 minus 5 is negative 1, so we'd have negative 3 times negative 1, and that is going to give us positive 3. Okay, so the first part, when we simplify the first part, we get positive 3. Come over here to the second part. I'll do this one in green, and on this one, we do have to distribute. Okay, there's no other way to do it other than to distribute because we have this lovely little X in there that we have to deal with. Okay, so let's put our sign. I'll put the signs in white. So we're going to go less than, all right, and then we're going to come back here and we're going to distribute. So we're going to get 2x plus, well, what is 2 times 1/2? Well, you should know that, but 2 over 1 times 1/2 is going to equal 2 over 2, which equals 1. Okay, 2 times 1/2 equals 1. So let's go ahead and put our 1 here, and then so we're done with that one. We've simplified that one. I'll put my sign now, less than, and now here in purple we're going to simplify 12 minus 5. 12 minus 5 is 7. All right, so there we go. We have done step number 1. That was step number 1. Simplify all three parts. Okay. Now look at step number 2. Step number 2, solve the first and second parts. In other words, I want you to separate this into two different things. We're going to have first and second, and then look here, then we're going to solve second and third. So the second, the middle piece, goes with each one. Okay, you'll see what I mean here in a second. So we're going to rewrite this. I'll rewrite this one in blue. And so this is, remember, this is the first. So that's the first. And this is the second. And this is the third piece. Okay. So we want the first and second together. So we're going to take this part together. And then we're going to take this part together. So that middle term is going to kind of go with both of them. What do I mean by that? Let's take this one over here, and we're going to get 3 is less than 2x plus 1. Okay? Now we're going to take this part over here, and we're going to end up with, I'll do this one in pink, I'm going to end up with 2x plus 1 is less than 7. I basically separated them into two problems. And so then I come back up here and it says solve the first and second, and then solve the second and third. So I'm just going to solve them like we've been solving. So let's solve this first one first. This is the first and second part. What do? Minus 1, minus 1. 2 is less than 2x because this cancels. Divide 2, and we're going to get 1 is less than x. 1 is less than x. So we have part of it solved. The first part is now solved. Let's go over here to the second one, and now we're going to solve this one as well. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. We're going to end up with 2x. That cancels, is less than 6. Divide 2 by 2, divide by 2, and we come up with x is less than 3. Well, what do we have now? What we have now is our two critical numbers. So we'll come over to our graph, and we are going to graph our two critical numbers. So we'll go this way, we'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll graph this one. We'll graph this 3 here. I'll go with this. Okay, it's a circle. It's an open circle. Why? Because it's not equal to. Okay, it's just less than. And then we are going to come over here and we're going to graph this one. What's the critical number here? 1 is the critical number. So we're going to circle 1. Is it open or closed? It is open because there is no equal to over here. Now, here's the trick. Here's the trick. Here's what I like to do personally. I like to then join these two back together to check this, to substitute in. Watch this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put 1 less than x, and I don't have to write the x twice because remember that's my second term, that's my middle. So I'm just going to write it once, less than 3. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to test points. What are my test points? Well, I could test 0, I could test 2, and I can test 4. Where's this going to go? Well, let's try 0. 1 is less than 0. All right, so I put 0 in there. 1 is less than 0. No, so 0 doesn't work. Let's try 2. 1 is less than 2. True. 2 is less than 3. True. And so I would then color in this middle part right here. Okay? And I could test 4 if I want to, just to kind of try it out, just to see, just to verify that it is not a solution. But 1 is less than 4. Hey, that's true. 4 is less than 3. That's not true. Okay, so that one doesn't work. So it makes sure that you remember it has to satisfy both of the conditions if it's going to work, if you're going to draw the line. So the 2 right down here at the bottom, right here, this 2, it satisfied both, so we color in the middle part. All right, let's do one more quick, and then I will let you go. All right. So again, I want to, well, let's follow the steps. Let's go back to the steps. Simplify all 3 parts. That's step number 1. So I want to simplify this. Well, look, simplified. Also simplified. I can't add the 1. I can't do anything with the -2. There's nothing to distribute. I'm good there. And look here. Also nothing to do. Awesome. Step number 1 is done. I love it. Step number 2 and 3, we could really kind of put those steps together. We are going to separate this into 2 pieces. So there's one piece and there's the other piece. So let's do the green one first. We'll do -3 is less than or equal to -2x plus 1. Then we'll do the yellow. We'll do -2x plus 1 is less than or equal to 5. And we're just going to solve them separately. We'll subtract 1 from both sides, and we'll get -4 is less than or equal to -2x. Now make sure you're watching this one. Pay attention. This is a tricky one. Divide both sides by -2. When I do that, you cannot forget this. You cannot forget this, or you will mess the whole thing up. You have to flip that sign right there because I divided by a negative number. So now my sign is greater than or equal to. That cancels. I get x on this side, and I get negative negative is going to make this positive. That's going to be a 2 over there, +2. Okay? All right. So now let's go to the yellow one, and we're going to solve the yellow one. So this right here, I want to get x by itself, so I want to subtract 1. So I get 2x, that cancels, is less than or equal to 4. I'm going to be dividing again by a -2. Okay, so be careful here. We got to flip that sign again. X is greater than or equal to -2 is what you get there. All right, so here's our critical numbers. We have that critical number and that critical number, or in other words, we have 2 and -2 as critical numbers. So we come down here to our number line, and 0, 1, 2, we'll put a 3 here, -1, -2, -3. All right, so let's go ahead and graph our critical points. We'll graph it in white here. We're going to graph the number 2. Okay, so come over here to the number 2. Now, don't forget to fill this one in because it is also equal to. So this is going to be a closed dot here. And then we have the same thing on the -2. So it's going to be a closed, not a mixed, not an open, a closed. Now the question is, do we fill in the middle or do we fill in on the outsides? And what we have to do is we have to test some points. So remember, I said that one good idea is to join those together. 2 is greater than or equal to x is greater than or equal to -2. Okay, and so now we're going to test points in there. Let's test -3, let's test 0, and let's test 3. Does -3 work? So -3. 2 is greater than or equal to -3. That's true. -3 is greater than or equal to -2. That does not work because 3 is less than -2. -3 is less than -2. Okay, so that 3 doesn't work. Let's try the 0. Let's try the 0. 2 is greater than or equal to 0. True. 0 is greater than or equal to -2. True. So the 0 works. And if the 0 works, we're going to fill in the middle part. We could test the 3 just to verify. I will tell you right now it does not work. 2 is greater than 3. That's not true. 2 is less than 3. So there you go. There is your solution. This is your solution. This is your solution. Or you could write this as your solution and combine it back together. I don't care if you leave them separated or I don't care if you join them together. It's fine. Either way of writing that is fine. And then obviously this number line down here is part of your solution as well. Okay? If you missed any of that, go ahead and rewind that and try to figure it out and make it make sense to you. Okay? We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.